So on the note that you were saying, like some of the folks come and they have these preconceived ideas, plus regulations have changed,
Yep.
and I imagine some training techniques have changed over the years. And so what advice would you give to those folks that you're like, man, I'm squared away, I know this and that, and you're saying to come and be humble?
And you know, come prepared. You know, I tell every class that we get, when you come here, if you want to be successful, if you put it on, if you wear it, if you do it, read the regulation before you come out here and do it. Because things have changed. It's been a while since people have done some of the things we asked them to do. And the best way to set yourself up for success is to go ahead and dig in those regulations. Read them before you come out here. Don't just put on and assume that what you've been doing is correct, because it may not be. And so read the regulations, study. Really, we're already a 12-hour-a-day course, and then on top of that, you know, we have different duties going on, and so students really need to study and take care of it. I tell them if there's any downtime, you should have your face in a book reading something, because it's just, you cannot get enough of the information that we're trying to put out in only 9 weeks. It's not enough time. We need more time, but you know, 9 weeks is what we get.
So this is not necessarily as you show up and you're going to graduate kind of school, but you're not trying to beat people up necessarily. I guess.
Yeah, no. So yeah, we're not trying to send anyone away. If anything, all we're doing, we just hold the standard. Some classes can be as big as 120 that graduate, some 55. You know, it's really up to that class. We're going to do everything in our power to provide them, you know, the information, make sure they're successful. We do everything not only from teach, but we also, you know, my drill sergeant leaders stay after hours and try to help those that aren't getting the material right or can't figure out how to do PRT right. They stay after, but at the end of the day, we can't perform for you. And if you don't perform to standard, we will not give you a passing grade. So it's really on them when they get up there, but up until then, we'll do everything in our power to get you to the standard, at least pass. But once you get up there, it's solely on that candidate.
Now, would you say, is there anything that's more challenging for the candidates, or is it just different for everyone?
I think pitching gets everyone initially. Everyone gets here and just doesn't know how to pitch. Maybe he's never had to memorize something that long, or doesn't understand the concept of pitching and how to do it, and it usually takes the first 1, 2, or 3 sets to really start understanding how to study these pitches. Some will just try to memorize all of it up at once and then come out here and try to just say it, and it just doesn't work out the way they thought it was going to work out. But everyone's different. I always tell them, you know, if something's not working, then change it. Don't just keep trying the same method. There's different methods, you know, break the pitch down, use demonstrators in your room or after hours, you know, videotape yourself. There's different methods to everything, but if you just stick with that one method and it's not working, it's not gonna just magically start working. So I would say pitches and then PRT evaluations. I think PRT evaluations tend to hold people up a lot just because there's so much to learn and so much you're being evaluated on in just a small window of time. And being a primary instructor on the podium, when you're actually on the stand, you can't really see how you're performing as a primary instructor. You don't know if maybe you're not performing the exercise to the standard exactly, and there's no cues. We don't tell you. You're executing at that point, and we just mark what you're doing.
So for folks that don't know what PRT is.
Oh yeah, so physical readiness training. They'll be evaluated on running a strength and mobility session, an endurance and mobility session. That's going to consist of preparation drill. They're going to do 4 for the core. They're going to do conditioning drill 1, 2, push-up, sit-up drill, climbing drills, and recovery drill for strength and mobility, and then we'll go some for hip stability for the endurance and mobility and military movement drills. And what they're doing is they're being evaluated on executing every exercise to the standard, and they'll also be evaluated as an assistant instructor walking around the formation, ensuring that their formation is conducting it to the standard. And I would say that the primary instructor is probably the toughest, just because you're executing exercises and you don't really know how to gauge how you're doing until the evaluation's done. An assistant instructor would know how they're doing just because you're talking and you're going through the exercise. So if you're not saying anything or you're being quiet, or you kind of know that you're not doing well, and you can kind of gauge how well you're doing. The primary instructor, you really don't know until your evaluation's over. So I'd say that's probably the hardest of the two, and we tend to see more people struggle with the strength and mobility session just because there are a lot more exercises, a lot more drills within that session. It's a lot longer, a lot more intense of a PRT session than going out for an endurance and mobility session, which is all running.
So you'd say a good drill sergeant is obviously it's got to be physically fit, but there has to be an instructor quality to you as well, and patience and all of those things. You can't just come in and be a PT stud.
No, yeah. Sometimes being a PT stud does not do anything. PT does matter. You have to be able to lead from the front. You have to be able to, you can't have trainees passing you up as a drill sergeant. But it's not all about what you can do, it's can you teach it. And so it doesn't do you any good to be able to outrun all your soldiers, but you can't teach them the proper ways to run, or how to properly warm up for that run, how to properly cool down using recovery drills. So being able to physically do it is required, but if you can't teach it, then you're not doing your job as a drill sergeant, which is primary. That's our primary job as a drill sergeant, is to teach these young men and women how to become soldiers, not just show them how to do it. So.
And the drill sergeant hat is so very iconic, and a lot of people, just, oh man, I want to do that one day, and I don't know if they necessarily have, if somebody's coming just because they think the hat is cool and they want to be prestigious, then, what would you say to those folks that just see the hat?
I mean, if you're just coming to wear the hat, then, you're probably going to get humbled really, really quick. Wearing the hat is really, what it is there's expectations. You wear this hat and there's a certain expectation that it doesn't matter who you are, even if you're not in the military. If someone sees a service member with this hat on, they have a certain expectation of discipline and standards and being a soldier. And so just coming here to put it on, if you're not learning the information, if you're not putting in the work it takes to put this hat on, then you're not going to be successful. And ultimately you're probably not going to put the hat on anyway.
That's getting ready to come?
I would say we tell them all, we send them an email. So if they're coming, they get an email directly. If they're coming to my class, they get an email from my deputy, and we tell them they need to start studying the first set, which is a position of attention, the rest positions at the halt, and the hand salute. And they need to get those memorized, and they need to memorize the drill sergeant creed, and they need to be physically in shape. And I would say the biggest deterrent is the PT test that tends to hold them up, just because we grade strictly to the standard. If there's any bend in your body throughout that push-up, we don't count that rep. We don't give any freebies out. It has to be your body must be straight at all times throughout the entire movement, and I think that tends to hold people up when they get here. They're not expected to be graded to the standard, to the T, and maybe they're riding pretty close to the minimum when they got here, but some of those push-ups really wouldn't have counted, and then they get here and they don't count, and then they find out they came up a little short. So I would say be physically fit, study the top three, which is those three positions I mentioned, and know the drill sergeant creed. Look over warrior task battle drills. That's a big one. Right there, the basic warrior task battle drill, skill level 1. That would be huge as well.
So the earning the hat is, you said, it's to the standard, so it's not just you're going to come here and you're going to get through the school, but the reason why the drill sergeant hat is so iconic is because there is a standard to it.
Yes.
It's not an easy thing.
No, yeah, I told my graduating class, this is probably mentally the toughest course the Army provides that's a non-volunteer course. You have your Ranger School, you have your Air Assault, Airborne, which are all known to be tough and they're going to beat you down physically and mentally, but you volunteer for those schools. So when you go there, you are mentally prepared for what you're about to, at least you think you are, mentally prepared for what you're about to get into. Most people that come here are voluntold. They don't really volunteer to come here, and so they're not expecting or not aware of what is about to come. And so I would say, understanding what it takes to be a drill sergeant, remembering what that drill sergeant was for you when you went through the Army. We got to get you there, and it's just not a snap of the fingers, us read a manual and tell you this is how to be a drill sergeant, and poof, you're a drill sergeant and you put the hat on. We gotta show you how it's done. We got to bring you back to the standard, because you're not gonna have an eye for certain things if we don't instill it back into you. If we don't show you how to accept nothing but the standard in your barracks room, then you're not going to know how to go in that room and find every little deficiency to instill that discipline into these soldiers when you get on the trail.
And has it, when you were voluntold to come to school, do you look back, any regrets now?
No, I will take this time. I just told this, my class graduates tomorrow. I told them, enjoy it. You only get one chance to do this. When you do get selected and you're selected to do this, you only get to do it one time. And whether it's 2 years to 3 years, based on how long you volunteer to stay on an extra year, you only get to do this one time. And the last thing you want to do is either let it drag on and not enjoy it, not take it seriously, and then finish your trail time with nothing but regrets, because you're essentially training a generation of the Army. And if you did that to less than the standard, if you didn't take it seriously, then that's a lot of regret you have to walk around with the rest of your career. So there's no regrets in being selected to be a drill sergeant. I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I know when it comes to an end, I'm probably going to be it's going to be a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. So
feel a lot of honor being able to have do this duty and wear that hat?
Oh, of course. So I actually wanted to be a drill sergeant. Just so happened that I got chosen to be a drill sergeant. And then when I was given the opportunity to interview to be a drill sergeant leader, I jumped on in a heartbeat, because for me, this course has completely shifted the way I am as a non-commissioned officer. The way my career will go from here has completely shifted my mindset as to what is necessary of a non-commissioned officer, not just with brand new trainees, but what we need to be doing as non-commissioned officers in the regular Army. And kind of coming here and being humbled and realizing how much we let mission kind of sometimes deter us from things that we need to be doing with soldiers, like marching and drill and ceremony. We just don't have time to do anymore. Coming here and being humbled and realizing how much we don't do, it's been an eye-opener, and I'm actually more excited to get back now with all this experience that I've gained not only from on the trail with trainees, but here at the Academy training NCOs.
And one more question, I enjoyed talking to you because a lot of insight. What would you tell folks about the responsibility of wearing that hat, like when they come, because it's an honor and it's a big responsibility, because not only do you have to be a good soldier, because there's a lot of good soldiers out there,
yeah,
but you have to be the example. And so God forbid you do one thing wrong, you're setting that example for soldiers. And so
yeah, so wearing this hat, you can't afford a bad day. There's no such thing as a bad day for us. You can't wake out of bed and just say, I'm not feeling it. Regardless of how you feel every day, when you get up in the morning, whether it's 03, 02, and it's the 8th day in a row you've been getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or 3 weeks long, you have to wake up motivated. You have to find a way to consistently be that example in front of them, no matter how you're feeling, what kind of day you've had, what kind of month you've had. And you see that. Every class you graduate, you see that end product. And then seeing them after, running into soldiers even that were my trainees when I was on the trail now, and just seeing how they've grown. I've had some already. I've only been on the trail 3 years, and I've had some get promoted to sergeant. And it's, that was just their drill sergeant maybe a couple years ago. And to see the starting product to the end product, there's nothing more rewarding than those soldiers when they leave and they shake your hand, they thank you for changing who they are as a human being, as an adult, and as a soldier. There's no other job, I'm sure, I will never have a job that's as fulfilling as this current one is for me right now.
Awesome. I think it's a perfect note to end on then.